Let's go. Time to grind, get inside your mind. Yeah, we working overtime. That's the only way to climb. We gon' make it in our prime. Signing on the dotted line, cashing checks left and right. That's the way I'm living life. I feel alive when I got a goal in sight. Chip away, I gotta fight. Ain't nobody else in sight. Man, I think I see the light. Yeah, that shit is so bright. Follow me, I got the guide. See you on the other side, son. Ain't nobody know what I've been through.
What is going on, everyone? And in this video, I'll be giving you my UFC Singapore main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, August 26, 2023, out of the Singapore Indoor Stadium in Kallang, Singapore. In the main event, we've got Max Holloway taking on Jung. That should be a pretty interesting fight. Co-main event, Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Spann. I think it'll be an okay card. It's an earlier card because it's in Singapore, so we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of an underrated one on paper. Maybe there's a lot of good fights on it. We'll have to see how that plans out. Obviously, the last event coming off a 9-3 in that one, so did pretty good on there. Did not get that main event, Sean O'Malley defeating Aljamain Sterling, which, in my opinion, for him, looked fairly easy, which is just so unfortunate for Aljamain Sterling. Really just didn't have anything going for him in that one. Wasn't able to get off that wrestling. And Sean O'Malley, just practicing a lot for the moment, and was able to capitalize on the opening. Read it, stuck him, put him down, and then finished him. So good win for Sean O'Malley. Obviously, he's gonna be on top. I think he'll be on top for a little bit. I don't think he gets the title taken off him right away. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. Like always, make sure you check the description box for the rest of the predictions on the prelims. But for now, let's go ahead and jump right in to the first fight. In the first fight on the main card, we have Junior Tafa, and he'll be taking on Parker Porter in the first fight on the main card. So for Tafa, he's coming in with a 4-1 record. For Porter, he's coming in with a 14-8 record. Obviously, Junior Tafa is the brother of Justin Tafa. Porter losing to Justin Tafa via KO/TKO in round number 1. Very quick match. Not much going on there. Just ate some shots, got put down. After that, he takes on Braxton Smith in a fight where for Porter, Smith he was being like the classic heavyweight, running in, super aggressive, dropping bombs, but then he's getting tagged up as he's doing that. So it really didn't work well for him. Obviously, Porter was able to capitalize on some of those openings, and then he was able to get that finish, be a KO/TKO in round number 1. But, I think that was more so Braxton Smith doing that to himself than like Porter looking extremely good. For Justin Tafa, he's coming off of a loss, his only fight inside the UFC. Junior Tafa, sorry. Junior Tafa is coming off of a loss against Muhammad Usman in his UFC debut, where he lost via decision. Usman was able to get 2 takedowns in that fight against Tafa, but he did defend 10 takedowns. So Tafa, it's not like he obviously did get taken down, and that's partially why he lost the fight, but he did defend 10 takedowns as well, and he did land more significant strikes. And I think honestly, Tafa, being a lighter on the feet heavyweight, right? He's not like a classic chunky dude running around just swinging bombs. I think Tafa could put together some good combinations. I think he did that against Usman. He just was getting a little bit frustrated with the grappling, but he does have pretty good takedown defense in my eyes, because defending 10 takedowns, even though he got taken down twice, that's pretty decent, right? And on the feet, I think he did hurt Usman a little bit. He was putting together the better combinations. It's just, unfortunately for him, he was just unable to showcase anything else and get anything else going. There were moments where he got a little bit crazy with it. I think, just being in the UFC debut, thinking you hurt your opponent a little bit, Tafa was just getting a little bit anxious there. But against someone like Parker Porter, Parker Porter has, outside of his last one, he won 3 decisions in a row, basically, before he lost twice. One to a really good jiu-jitsu guy in Almeida, and then obviously he loses to his brother, Justin Tafa. I think if you just press Parker Porter, right, defend his takedown if he does shoot in, and just kind of just overly be aggressive, but not to the point where, like, you're also too sloppy to where he can just duck underneath you and take you down. I think Tafa can land on him, right? And I think if he presses him early, gets in his face, puts together a decent combination, I think Tafa can hurt him. And once he does that, I mean, just like his brother, he could probably put him away. I really don't think there's too much to it like that. Now, obviously, if Porter's able to survive and start frustrating Tafa, push him against the fence, maybe mix in some takedowns, kind of do what Usman did to him, then yeah, maybe he is able to pull off a decision here. Or if Tafa gets a little bit too reckless and gets caught, right? I guess that could happen because Porter could obviously catch him with something. But I think more than likely, Tafa is just going to be super aggressive, string together a good combination, touch the chin of Porter, hurt him, make him a little bit wobbly, and then just basically follow through with the KO, TKO. So for me, without thinking about it too much, because when you start thinking about it too much, next thing you know, Porter taking this fight to like a close split decision or something, which I guess could happen if he uses the grappling, but we'll have to see. I'm going to trust Junior Tafa's takedown defense, and I'm going to trust that he's hungry to get this victory here. So I'm going to go Junior Tafa to defeat Parker Porter. I'll take him to win by round 1, KO TKO. In the second fight on the main card, we have Erin Blanchfield, 11-1, taking on Taila Santos, 19-2. So for Erin Blanchfield, I think she's kind of been low-key. I think a lot of people haven't really, myself included, haven't really kept an eye on her as far as what she's able to achieve. And then obviously when she took on Jessica Andrade, you started to see like, okay, like she's legit. She's overall really good fighter, gets the rear naked choke submission, kind of learns what other people are doing, eats some of the shots against Andrade, but mainly able to pick her apart on the feet a little bit. And then also once the fight hit the ground, she took advantage and got that submission. Against Molly McCann, another one where we've seen McCann unfortunately not do good against better grapplers and lose the fight. So she gets taken down, and then Blanchfield's able to kind of dominate her with the submission. Defeats JJ Aldrich, guillotine choke. She gets taken down twice in that one, but she does pull off the submission. Miranda Maverick beats her via unanimous decision, gets 7 takedowns. And then her first fight against Sarah Alpar, she gets the unanimous decision. And then, I mean, what is that? Basically 120 significant strikes and 3 takedowns to Alpar's 41. So she's overall a really good fighter, Blanchfield. My only concern for her is on the feet. I do think she has pretty good striking. It's just her defense against someone like Taila Santos, who I think can hit pretty hard, who can be patient, who can string together some pretty good combinations with the power. There might be moments where Santos is able to tag her up a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that means anything. I'm not saying Blanchfield still can't take her down and submit her, but from a defensive standpoint, still with the grappling, I think Santos might be able to handle herself at least early on, right? I do think she can be taken down. We saw that against Shevchenko, but she can make it competitive, especially early on. Santos had Shevchenko in some pretty bad spots early on, and she loses that fight via split decision. But I think she made it competitive, right? And Santos threatened with 3 submission attempts, got 3 takedowns. So I think overlooking Santos here and just like, oh, she's going to get out grappled. I mean, she might, but on the feet, I feel like she might be able to land some pretty good shots on the feet that could alter the way Blanchfield looks at this, to where maybe Blanchfield isn't just straight right off the bat able to just take her down, submit her, right? Maybe Blanchfield faces some adversity on the feet, and then you have Santos putting together some good combinations, or maybe the grappling just kind of cancels out and we see a striking affair where maybe it's a really close split decision. Like, it could be one of those fights. I just feel like Santos isn't going to get annihilated within like 2 minutes. I just feel something like Santos has pretty good feints. Like I said, her striking I don't think is sloppy, right? I don't think she's going to run across like Jessica Andrade did against Blanchfield, just looking for a KO, right? I think Santos can play this fight patient, and that's kind of why I think it'll go to a decision. So for me, I'm not going to count out Santos here. I'm going to take Taila Santos to defeat Erin Blanchfield. I'll take her to win by decision. In the third fight on the main card, we have Rinya Nakamura, 7-0, taking on Fernie Garcia, 10-3, in a UFC bantamweight bout. So this is a pretty good fight for Nakamura. I think he's coming in here. He's coming out of Japan, really hyped up, I believe. Coming off 3 wins inside of the UFC. I guess 2 road to UFC and then 1 inside of the UFC technically. Last win was against Toshiomi Kazama, which he won KO/TKO round number 1. And so that was a good fight for him. Brutal fast start, right? He comes right out the gate swinging Nakamura. The only thing I will say is, obviously, I think he probably could be countered because he does get a little bit crazy in there. It's just that I think he just relies on his aggression. You know, obviously stringing together some pretty good combinations and then relying on that power to kind of just overwhelm your opponent, so that even if you do get tagged in there, you're just so aggressive that you kind of just overwhelm them and then you're able to land your own shot. And that's kind of what he did in that fight. He also has some good wrestling. So we didn't see that in the last one, but I do think that could come into play here if he's having trouble on the feet. If he doesn't take his opponent out right away. And I think it would be more of a long-term way to go about things instead of running across the ring superly, aggressive. Because eventually I feel like you're going to get countered, you're going to get put down. The better guy will take advantage of it. So if he can kind of mix in his wrestling, he might be able to fight a better fight and then finish without looking a little bit chaotic. For Fernie Garcia, he's coming into this one coming off 2 losses inside the UFC, both via unanimous decision. Both fights he did get taken down. That's a little bit concerning because, like I had just said, Nakamura, if he really wants to, I feel like he could look to the wrestling here and then look to be aggressive. He takes his opponent down. He might not try to do that right off the bat because he wants to get that KO/TKO, but who knows? Garcia could eventually, Garcia could catch him if he gets too wild at the end of the day. For Garcia, yeah, he has to defend the takedowns, counter the aggressive attacks. And then at the same time, I would like to see Garcia take this fight a little bit deep. In his last 2 fights, he didn't get absolutely beat or whatever, like crazy, but he did eat some pretty hard shots. And like, it's hard for me to look past that and think that Nakamura is not going to be able to find his chin. And whether he drops him and absolutely KOs him or drops him and then finishes him being KO/TKO, mounts him or whatever, I just think it's hard for me to look past that. I think unless Nakamura makes a really big mistake, like just running across the ring and running across the octagon and getting caught just because he's too confident and leaves his chin out, and Garcia sets up like the perfect counter shot, I really don't see Nakamura losing this one. And like I said, maybe if he doesn't finish him like via KO, flat out just flatlining him, maybe he's able to utilize some wrestling and then go for the ground and pound. So we'll see what happens here. But I'm going to go Rinya Nakamura to defeat Fernie Garcia. I'll take him to win by round 1, KO/TKO. In the 4th fight on the main card, we have Giga Chikadze taking on Alex Caceres, 14-3 for Chikadze, and then 21-13 for Caceres in a featherweight bout. So this is an interesting fight because when you look at someone like Chikadze, who's coming in off of his first really big loss inside the UFC, outside of his first fight on Dana White Contender Series, his first fight lost inside of the UFC against Calvin Kattar. So he faces that really top level competition. Kattar's able to just shut him down, right? Puts on the aggression, stays on top of him, stays in his face, lights him up with combination, drops him, takes him down twice, right? Kind of just weighs on him, doesn't give him any space to start getting those kicks off, to get any offense. And just, you saw Chikadze, right? He just looked drained. He was tired. He was like, oh no. That was a 5-round fight. So the one thing to immediately take into consideration is that this is not going to be a 5-round fight. So I don't think Chikadze is going to be gassed out. On top of that, I don't think Caceres is going to fight a fight how Calvin Kattar fought. I think Caceres is more of kind of like Chikadze. They need space, right? They have movement. They try to throw the kicks. The kicks and all that can come out of nowhere, but they need distance, right? No one's kicking anybody in the head when they're 5 inches away from each other, right? Caceres has that really good left hand. He has good cardio, but again, this is not a 5-round fight. It's going to be a 3-round fight. So when you start looking at the injuries, like what kind of injuries did Chikadze have, right? The time off, all that, the beating that he took, you start having to look at a lot of other things. And I think the biggest thing that I've done that really hasn't played well for me, unless someone like Chris Weidman, where he comes back from a tragic injury, right? And he just doesn't look the same. And he, on top of that, he was already kind of on the lower end of winning a lot of those fights against top guys. So I didn't pick Chris Weidman in his last fight. But then when you look at a fight like this, Chikadze really has given us, outside of fighting someone at the top level like Kattar, who found a way to shut him down, which, you know, when you look at someone like Max Holloway, probably would do the same thing, but still very dangerous fighter. So I think a lot of times I would just be like, oh, Chikadze looked different, blah, 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 oh, whatever, you know, he got shut down, oh, Caceres is going to shut him down too. But Caceres isn't going to fight him like Cater did, right? He's just not. I think it's going to be one of these fights where they can get going back and forth, right? It's going to be one of those point fighting ones where Caceres is going to land some pretty good kicks, maybe land a head kick. Chikadze is going to land his own kicks. He's going to land his own strikes. Chikadze might be able to trap him up against the fence, do some good damage, but then Caceres might be able to grapple with him. I think it's a pretty good back and forth fight, this one. It's going to be a competitive fight, and I don't really see anyone getting absolutely annihilated unless Chikadze just doesn't look great or whatever, and Caceres is able to kind of backpack him, take him down, and finish him. I mean, we could always see that, but I feel like Chikadze isn't going to let that happen. I just feel like he has still pretty good takedown defense, and just his ability to utilize those kicks, man. Like, if he hurts Caceres just even a little bit, Caceres is going to be a little bit hesitant, I think, to kind of rush in on him or whatever. So obviously, that's how Caceres is going to need to win the fight, by closing the distance, shutting him down, grappling with him, dragging him down to the floor. But like I said, Chikadze is still very dangerous, so I think it'll be kind of a point kind of fight where both guys are they're playing good chess. It might not be the most exciting fight, but the better guy who lands the harder shots here and there is probably going to win, unless one of them just looks absolutely horrible. And like I said, Chikadze just, I don't know, maybe he gets taken down and just has no takedown defense or submission defense. But both guys, good movement. And then, yeah, Chikadze too, being shut down in his last fight, might not have that I'm undefeated kind of vibe going inside of the UFC. He knows he can be defeated. He knows he has to kind of fight a little, add maybe a little bit more to his game instead of just trying to one-shot people with the Giga kick. Has to evolve maybe some of his grappling and all that, especially against a guy like Caceres. So again, I think it's going to be a competitive fight. So with that being said, I think it's a really good fight. Caceres is definitely going to be a game opponent, and then the same thing for Chikadze. I think he's not going to look like trash. He's not going to look like half of who he was, but I do think we might see a little bit more of his game outside of just looking for like a big shot here and there. So I'm going to go Giga Chikadze to defeat Alex Caceres. I'll take him to win by decision. In the co-main event of the evening, we have Anthony Smith, 36-18, taking on Ryan Spann, 21-8, in a light heavyweight bout. And this is probably going to be one of the most sketchiest fights on this entire card, let alone a fight where you just kind of have to hope for the best for whoever you're picking and then flip a coin. Because Anthony Smith did win the first time that they fought, right? He obviously did have that. He wobbled him a little bit and then was able to get the submission victory, I believe. Yeah, submission victory, round number 1. The issue, though, is Ryan Spann in that first round, especially what we've seen from Anthony Smith. We saw his fight against Johnny Walker. We saw his fight against Magomed Ankalaev. It's not the best, right? Especially the one against Walker. He was like saying something about his family. You know, you're something about his family. You attack my family, and Walker's like, what? Like midway through the fight, like he's trying to get himself motivated to keep fighting or something. It was just really weird. 92 significant strikes to Smith's 38. So not the best. Both guys did get a takedown in that fight, but yeah, not the best. And obviously when he fought, Ankalaev just got stuck on the floor. Now, the same thing with Ryan Spann. He's going off of a loss against Nikita Krylov. Gets taken down in that fight, gets submitted. Not much to it right there. I mean, he just didn't have good positioning in that fight, and he lost to a better grappler. Before that, he took out Dominic Reyes. Pretty good win for him there. Took out Ian Cutelaba via submission. Again, more so in my opinion, Cutelaba just having a 0 fight IQ where he just gives up shit like that. It's just, that was just a bad fight for him. And then he loses to Anthony Smith. For Ryan Spann, I still think he's probably going to be the one where if anyone's getting slapped like one shot, it's probably going to be Anthony Smith because Ryan Spann like puts it on him. The issue I have with Ryan Spann is, yeah, he has all that power, but he gets caught in these wild exchanges and gets clipped by like a jab or something, and he goes flying, and he's like, oh, it's all over, and he's gonna get knocked out or whatever. So, but at the same time, it's like he also hopefully has looked at why he lost, and he sees some of that flaws And so he can go back and say, okay, maybe I can definitely knock out Anthony Smith if I'm not getting too crazy with it and just trying to wildly throw all these shots at him. And then next thing you know, he's catching me with something. I'm getting submitted. Because I really do think Anthony Smith, I don't know, it was a little concerning in his last fight. It's like he didn't really look like he wanted to be in there. He was trying to find a reason to get hyped up against Walker. And he just didn't look good, low output. He has good leg kicks. He can mix together some good combinations, and he can even get a takedown here or there if he needs to. But again, more so, I think Ryan Spann's the one that's going to get any sort of takedown. So I think if Ryan Spann can just calm down, pick his big shots, and not string together some wild brawling type striking where he leaves his chin exposed, I think he can hurt Anthony Smith. And having that second opportunity to go in there against a guy who really just hasn't looked great in his last two fights. Not that Spann has looked the best either in his last two fights, right? It's not like he's going out there knocking everybody out. But the fight against Dominic Reyes, I thought that was pretty good. He can flash KO someone in like out of nowhere. So yeah, I think if Ryan Spann slows the fight down, picks his big shots, realizes why he got a little bit reckless and got caught, right? And then next thing you know, he's getting submitted. Slow the fight down, get in his face, pick your shots. You just need one to land. Don't gas yourself out, and just get it done. You got a second opportunity. Most people don't have these kind of shots where they get to go back and think what they did wrong the first time. So, in my opinion, Ryan Spann, I just feel like he's probably going to be, even in his loss against Nikita Krylov, I still feel like he's going to be a little bit more motivated than what I saw with Anthony Smith. I just think maybe Anthony Smith's realizing that when he fights these next level guys, he's just unfortunately not able to get anything going. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't assume that Anthony Smith's going to go in here and win again. That's kind of what I'm saying. But again, Ryan Spann, he gets clipped, he goes flying, it's all over, So it's just one of those sketchy fights. But I'm going to go Ryan Spann on this one. I want to see what he can do on this second time. I think I took Anthony Smith the first time just because I felt like Ryan Spann was going to be a little bit too aggressive. And he could do the same thing here. He runs out there, gets caught, and then it's all over. But I'm going to go Ryan Spann to defeat Anthony Smith. I'll take him to win by round 1, KO TKO. In the main event of the evening, we have Max Holloway 24-7 taking on Chang Sung Jung 17-7 in a featherweight bout. So for this one, it's hard for me to see Max Holloway losing, not because I don't believe in Chang Sung Jung, but just how dominant Max Holloway has been. And then, people don't really believe in MMA math, and I know you shouldn't do it, but Max Holloway fought Alexander Volkanovski 3 times. So the best dude, right? The best guy in this entire division, arguably contender in the light heavyweight division, all that stuff. He fights him 3 times, arguably wins one of the fights, loses the other 2, whatever, but still they're competitive. He does get beat up in his last fight. I guess it was the more decisive victory for Volkanovski. But outside of that, he's beating everyone else. Calvin Kattar, we saw what Kattar did to Giga Chikadze, for example. He just absolutely annihilated him on the feet. Took out Yair Rodriguez, annihilated him on the feet. Even got 3 takedowns. Took out Arnold Allen, right? Annihilated him on the feet. And it's just one of these things where I don't see how Chang Sung Jung annihilates him anywhere, right? Because if Chang Sung Jung wants to get the grappling going, well, he's going to have to get Holloway down on the floor. And like I said, what's not to say that Holloway pulls off a defensive submission? And not saying that he pulls off defensive submissions anytime of late, but if Chang Sung Jung tries to get the takedown or tries to get some sort of grappling going, Holloway could defend himself, I think, and push him off. And it's just going to be a lot to deal with because Chang Sung Jung may want to grapple. But if it's grappling just because Holloway's overwhelming him on the feet and just has him up against the fence, teeing off on him, and Jung just jumps in on him to go for a takedown, that's not going to be the greatest thing ever for Chang Sung Jung because it's going to be more of out of desperation. So I just, it's hard for me to see what Chang Sung Jung is going to be able to do. And even on the feet too, Chang Sung Jung, he's going to want to counter Holloway. But it's hard to counter someone who's just going to be so aggressive and just start throwing all these things at you, right? It's not like Holloway is just picking one shot to KO and then you counter that, right? He's not running in recklessly. He's very technical still. It's not like Aljamain Sterling where he kind of overreaches, doesn't even touch O'Malley, and then O'Malley steps back and dinks him on the head, right? Holloway's not going to reach in like that. He's going to go forward. He's going to pop, pop, pop. He's going to just throwing all these looks at him, just so overwhelming the system. And Jung is like, oh shit, well, I'm trying to kind of, he's going to just freeze up. He's not going to have his computer system's going to shut down, and he's going to desperately maybe try to go in for a grappling exchange, and Holloway just throws him off, or hurts him badly when he does that, or pulls off a submission. I think Chang Sung Jung can survive a little bit. I think he's definitely a tough bastard. We saw that against Alexander Volkanovski. I just don't think Holloway, unless he looks completely different for some reason, or he has an injury or something and looks off, I just don't see how Holloway loses this one. I think it's another one of these fights where Holloway just brutally beats him up until he gets the finish. And that's really not to count out Chang Sung Jung. It's just that Holloway is literally the number 2 guy next to Alexander Volkanovski. And I think it's just how it's going to be. I just do not see anyone being able to overthrow Holloway unless they can match his level of striking and threaten with dominant grappling or wrestling, right? I just don't see it, and I don't think Chang Sung Jung, who is more of a counter stand-up kind of fighter, is gonna be able to counter Holloway and knock him out or something. Crazier things have happened, so I guess who knows, right? At the end of the day, but that would be shocking to me, and I'll be half awake to begin with because it's in the morning on a Saturday. But I guess. But we're not going to go with that because I just don't think that's going to be the likely outcome. So I'm going to go Max Holloway to defeat Chang Sung Jung. I'll take him to win by round 4, KO TKO. So that'll do it, guys, for my UFC Singapore main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, August 26, 2023. Pretty underrated card, I would say. I like that it's going to be a little bit early as well, 8 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to see what we get out of Max Holloway. Anthony Smith, Ryan Spann could be a quick one. Return of Giga Chikadze, right? Got some little up-and-comers too. Erin Blanchfield, Rinya, Nakamura on the card. So it'll be interesting to see what we get from a lot of these fights. Are they going to be finishes? Are they going to be good ones? Or are they going to just not? Or it will be a forgettable event? Probably. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And then move on to the next one, just like we always do. So leave your comments down below. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in the next video.